Week 2 of college football action gave us a massive shakeup in how things look in the college football landscape, especially at the top. So let's take a look at my top 10 teams after the week 2 slate of games. 1 and 2, still Georgia and Michigan. I'm not making any movement on either of these teams until I see some signs of weakness. Georgia and Michigan haven't played anybody, and they've looked fine. I know that, again, I said this last time. I feel as there is this assumption that Georgia has looked a little rusty. I'm not worried. They haven't played anyone. And last year, they looked rusty at the beginning of the year in some of the games that they played, especially Kent State of all opponents. And then they went on to dominate and win the national championship. So let's wait and see. Let's not freak out, and let's not put one of these hot teams to start the year ahead of them until we get some more games under their belts. And speaking of one of those hot teams, actually two of these hot teams, that being Florida State at number 3 for me, and then Texas at number 4. I put Florida State at 3 last week. I am keeping them there. They looked amazing against LSU. They look to be one of the most well-rounded teams in college football, offensively, defensively, and they played a weak opponent in week 2. So no movement there. I'm going to keep them at number 3. I'm excited to see as they face the bulk of their ACC conference schedule, what this team is going to continue to do, and if they deserve to maintain that number 3 spot, or maybe eventually move up any further. You could call this an overreaction, but when you show up and you kick Alabama's butt the way that they did, you get moved up to number 4. I feel completely justified in putting Texas in this position, especially for the fact that the rest of their schedule is very winnable for them. They can run the table, maybe finish with 1 loss and win the Big 12, especially if they continue to play the way that they did against Alabama. They can't get too high on themselves. Sometimes teams tend to do that. But this performance showed a lot of that they can unlock their ceiling as an elite team in college football. Quinn Ewers, who has been inconsistent on being accurate on deep throws, was very accurate on a lot of those deep throws. He scored multiple touchdowns in this game because he was hitting all of those shots that he has since not been able to complete. I think that Quinn Ewers is going to use this as a confidence builder. I think this team in general is going to use it as a confidence builder, and they're going to continue to improve on a week-to-week basis with that stretch of Big 12 play coming up very soon. Number 5, Washington. This is one of the picks that frustrates a lot of college football fans for my placement of them ahead of USC. But the way that I see it is that Washington is the most well-rounded team in the entire Pac-12. I think I was a bit justified for putting them as the highest, especially for the way that Oregon played against Texas Tech. Oregon's still a really good Pac-12 team, but they struggled against a Texas Tech team that lost to Wyoming and has been a bit shaky in spurts. Washington's placement here at number 5, I know that their schedule has been weak in the first 2 weeks, but I continually see not only Michael Penix deserves to be in the Heisman conversation. I see an offense with multiple receivers that can stretch the field and can score a touchdown in less than a minute. I see a strong, consistent offensive line that does not show any possibility of breaking or faltering. And I see a defense that's smothering. I really need to see how Washington plays against USC because I think that can be a defining moment for both of these teams. USC at number 6, I basically just unpacked it there. USC is the best offense in college football. Like, let's not debate this. They embarrassed Stanford the way that they played in that first half. You almost didn't even need to play the second half with the amount of points and how quickly they put them up on the board against Stanford. But that's the worst team in the Pac-12 right now. They also, and I've said this on a week-to-week basis, have shown signs of defensive weakness. Once they're tested, once they play one of the top teams in the conference, and they show to me that they can play strong, stout defense, I will make movement, and I could possibly end up moving them ahead of Washington. Number 7, Penn State. I'm very high on Penn State after the way that they've looked in these first 2 weeks. They beat Delaware. Not really a defining win that's going to give you a lot of, we need to move them up in the top 10, but that West Virginia win looked really good. Drew Allard continues to look really good. I believe that's the pronunciation from other people that I've heard. I believe it's Drew Allard. Some people in the comments tried to point out I'm saying it wrong. It is what it is. Penn State, though, deserves to be ahead of Ohio State until these two teams face off with one another. Ohio State comes in at number 8 for me. I feel as though offensively, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka got more involved against Youngstown State. But until this offense is truly tested when they play Notre Dame in 2 weeks, we'll get to understand if they belong in that conversation in the top 5 as they were placed in the preseason by many. Number 9, speaking of Notre Dame, I did not want to put Notre Dame in my top 10 until they played somebody. NC State is a quality ACC opponent. They are not a back end of the ACC team. They also have never allowed more than 30 points, I believe, at home in 2 years. And Notre Dame comes out, bad weather, and despite the difficulties with throwing the ball early because of those weather issues and the rain delay, they eventually started to click in that second half. They turned the ball over, they had splash plays, they showed continual signs of progression against a team that this could have been a very close game. A lot of people pick this to be a close game because NC State is better than some people expect. So Notre Dame at number 9, I'm really excited for that Ohio State-Notre Dame matchup because that is going to be a defining moment for this college football season. And then lastly, number 10, Alabama. When you lose to a top 5 team in Texas, you're not going to get completely removed from the top 10. But if I continue to see signs of struggle on offense, if I continue to see Jalen Milroe have inaccuracies throwing the football and Tommy Rees struggling to call plays that's going to set up this offense to be productive, they're getting booted out of the top 10. I'm taking them out. And then lastly, for anyone who's questioning why I took LSU out, I think that it's time to move some of these other teams in with the way that LSU played in week 1. I thought it over. I think that it's time to move them out. I'm putting them at that 11 spot until they get a defining win to place themselves back in that top 10 ranking. Comment below. Let me know what you think. If you disagree, agree, whatever it might be, drop it in the comments. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you check out BetOnline for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.